Your attention please for a moment. You will be seated, and as this demonstration is being recorded as a courtesy to the chef, if you could put your phones on mute please, that won't disturb it. Good day and welcome to the Christchurch Vegan Expo 2017, the cookery demos. As a special guest, it's our honor to present Aaron Brunet, our 2014 Masterchef New Zealand winner. Thank you. And he'll be making the vegan butter chicken series. Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you everyone. Thanks for coming along. Can you guys hear me at the back all right? Okay, let's see if that's on. Maybe that's... Is that better like that? Yeah. Cool, awesome, great. So thank you so much for coming along. It's really awesome to come down to this expo. I've been quite chuffed. Like I went vegan 2.5 years ago, and I keep finding as time goes on, it becomes more and more sort of popular, and more people I talk to are feeling really positive. It's a really awesome sort of thing to be part of. I'm going to give a talk a bit later on about 2:45 about my journey, but in essence I kind of went vegan 2.5 years ago because I realised it was the thing I could do that made the biggest difference to my environmental impact. And it's funny because I sort of did Masterchef and then left that behind almost. My life kind of fell apart, and I sort of left Masterchef behind and started following what felt really true to me. And what felt true to me was thinking about the world and thinking about how I ate and how that made an impact. And so I went vegan and was doing other things, and then I gradually started to think, actually, you know what, the Masterchef is a good thing to open doors, and it sort of all started to come back together. So I just quit my day job on Monday, and I'm going back into doing like food stuff full time. So it's coming down to this is like a nice celebration of that, really. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah. And so what I'm going to cook today is something that's like a real mainstream dish. These guys at the front are going to hear me say the same stuff again and again. I just did the same dish before, 45 minutes ago. So it's basically a vegan butter chicken sauce, and it's something, to me it's like a dish that everyone can relate to. Like butter chicken is something, that's quite popular, but it's normally full of cream, and it's kind of like a heavy creamy thing that people eat, kind of like a guilty pleasure, whereas this to me is just like a pleasure. It's using cashews, blended up in the blender really smooth, and that makes it into like a very creamy taste. So I'm going to try and cook it on this little induction hot plate. We were told, about 5 days ago, we weren't allowed to use any heat in our cooking demos, and it's like, that's going to be fun. There's the smoke alarms that are super sensitive, so what I'm going to do is just cook it like very gently, and but that actually works well because normally if you're doing something like this, you'd be frying everything in oil at the start. And after watching some movies like What the Health, and who's seen What the Health out of interest? Wow, it's a lot, eh? Cool. So there's quite a few doctors in those movies who talk about having a low-fat or like a no-oil kind of diet, and that's been a million years from where I've been because I've always used olive oil and fried everything and then added to stuff from there. But I've started playing with that more and more because I think it does, your taste buds change. If you start eating less oil, your taste buds do change. And I really like the idea, like with cashews for instance, that we're using in this dish. Like in one cashew there we've got protein and fat and lots of plant fibre, and it's kind of, there's lots of fats in there, but they're kind of joined together with lots of other good things too. So a dish like this, you can kind of blend that up and get all of that goodness, whereas if you're just using oil or something like butter, you're just only extracting that really high energy fatty sort of part of things. So one of the things I like about this dish is it doesn't have to use oil and you still get that lovely creamy result. So I'll start chopping up some onion and just make sure that's going. Yeah. And please feel free to yell out questions, just keep it super casual. I'm just going to cook away and make mistakes and make a dick of myself and whatever, so keep it simple.
You use the whole onion?
As opposed to...
It looks like some people don't like it. Some that's not that.
Oh, okay. Well, I tend to cut the front and back off the onion, but do you mean part of the centre or something? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I use the whole thing, yeah. For this dish particularly, it's good to chop it quite fine, so I'll try and do that quickly if I can. good question. How many servings? So I would say this would probably make about 4 servings of sauce, but yeah, it's one of those things you can actually make a really big batch and freeze it because the sauce will come out of the freezer and just reheat in the microwave really easily. And so today we're going to do it. When I first started making this dish, I did it with tofu, and that was kind of like a tofu butter chicken, but for the tasting today, so we've got like sort of pre-prepared stuff at the back. We've got a couple of different chicken substitutes. One of them is called sun-fed chicken, which is a new product that's just come out. And the other one is like an Asian kind of chicken substitute thing. So I thought we'd just pair that with the sauce today, but you could use it with tofu or anything that you want to put the butter chicken sauce with.
What's the sun-fed chicken?
Okay, so sun-fed chicken is it's a New Zealand product, and it's made from mainly pea protein and pumpkin powder, and it's the ingredient list, like for a sort of meat substitute, the ingredient list is quite simple, I think, and it's got really high protein, and try it later on. You'll see what you think. I personally like it. It's yum. Yeah, I reckon it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. And what's really cool to me is those kind of meat replacements are becoming a really big thing. Like these guys who've made that, they're just like swamped. They put it in the supermarkets and it sells out every day they stock it out. And all over the world, like big meat companies are investing in businesses like that because they can see that there's more and more reason to do that. Like it's going to make economic sense.
Customers who don't want to make another one.
Yeah, it's a great way to transition if you're used to eating meat. Something like that is quite a good way to step into something different. But the big thing to me is like those kind of foods have a much lower environmental impact. So like you can make, say, between 5 and 20 times as much of that kind of stuff on the same land as you could with beef or something like that. So it just makes a lot of sense. We can't really keep on going the way we are and expecting the whole world to eat beef. There's just not enough planets around for that. But I think the thing is, a lot of people find it scary to leave behind what they're used to, and something like this makes it much less scary. It's like, oh, I could eat that, and the family will like that, So it's not the kind of thing I eat all the time personally, but I'm much more into like just beans and rice and really simple stuff. But it is tasty and it is fun, I reckon. I better stop talking and keep cooking, eh? It's not going to happen. Yeah, you mean like so chickpeas as the base? Yeah, I did try it one time and it was good. The chickpeas, I think if you did that, I'd almost make the sauce stronger tasting because the chickpeas, yeah, like add more spices to it. Because if you do chickpeas, it seems like the sauce kind of vanishes a little bit into the chickpeas. So what I'm going to do here, I've got the pan warming up. I'm just going to put some veggie stock on it. So rather than using oil, I've got some of this, it says chicken stock, but there's no chicken in it. It just has a chickeny taste, and it's like a veggie stock. So a spoon of that in some water, like a cup of water, makes quite a strong stock. I'm going to add more water as it cooks too. But rather than using oil and getting smoke and steam and setting the smoke alarms off and ruining the whole expo, I'll do this.
Where do you get that stock from?
That stock, I think you can get it at most good supermarkets, or I don't know. Does anyone know where you get it from? Myself? Yeah. Countdown? Yep. Cool. You will? Yep. Okay, cool, yeah. I've actually mainly bought the other one called Rapunzel, but this one's tasty, it's really good. Okay, so the onions are just going to simmer. All the rest of the stuff I'm just going to chuck in the blender. So when I started doing this dish, I was actually chopping up the ginger and garlic and sort of simmering those with the onions. But the onions, I think, need to be cooked because it makes them softer and sweeter. But the other stuff, you can actually, in the blender, just put it all together and then pour it on top and simmer it away, and it seems to work really well. So I've been kind of playing with this dish for a while and just, experimenting to see what works. So what I'm going to put in here is, let's see. So yeah, we're going to have tomatoes. We're going to have some tinned tomatoes and fresh tomatoes. So I've got 1 tin of just nice sort of tinned tomatoes. And on the subject of tinned tomatoes, and I mean, you'll have to shut me up. I can rant about some of these topics for way too long, but they don't all taste the same, and the price is often not that different, but some of them taste really like fresh, nice tomatoes, and others taste kind of old and like tired and dead, and it does, if you're doing a dish like this, the tomato is going to be one of the key flavours in there, so choosing a tin of tomatoes, normally I use the Mutti brand, which is from Italy, and they're like really, really cool. These Waddies ones often taste really good, but you just have to try them and see, but if you buy 5 different tins of tomatoes, you'll get 5 different flavours, and it's good to know what you like,
The tomatoes you're using, do they have any other flavours?
No, that's just plain tomatoes, yeah, totally. And I'm going to chuck 1 fresh tomato in as well, because I think it does give a nice sort of different character to it. I'm just going in the blender, and then we've got about half a cup of cashews, so I'm just going to chuck those in too. And we had a question in the last session, do I soak them first? But you can soak them, and it will help them to get softer. If you've got a blender like this that goes really fast, you don't really need to. It just sort of makes short work of them. So, I think if you use almonds, I haven't tried it, but it would taste more almondy. I think cashews have maybe a slightly milder taste. I don't know. It'd be good to try that, because that's somebody else asked that in the last session too. So.
It changes the flavour.
Yeah, it would definitely be different, but it might be nice, or it might be just different. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. And then, so the other thing I've got here is about a tablespoon of ginger, like fresh root ginger, and then 3 cloves of garlic. Those are really big ones. On the recipe it says 4, but these are monsters, so I just put a bit less. And then some fresh turmeric root, which, how many of you guys have bought fresh turmeric before? Oh wow, cool. Yeah, like 5 years ago you didn't see it, and now it's everywhere, which is awesome. So, yeah. So it's very, it's one of my favourite things. Like every time I make a smoothie or a banana ice cream, I put turmeric, or no, not banana ice cream, but for smoothies, it gives a real like antioxidant boost, and it's a nice flavour, and like green smoothies particularly, I think it's a great thing. And in this, I do have some powdered turmeric, but fresh turmeric has quite a different, like, alive taste to it, I guess. Like powdered ginger tastes one way and fresh ginger tastes a whole other way. Same thing with turmeric, I reckon.
I heard you need to boost its efficiency, effectiveness. You need add like pepper or cayenne pepper.
Oh yeah, I've heard people say that. Yeah, pepper makes turmeric work better.
Yeah. Like 2,000% times more effective.
Yeah. I'll just toss those onions around a bit. Okay, so we've got, now the other thing is spices. So in the recipe there, which we've got down the back, you can have a copy of the recipe to take away, you might already have one, but it's got coriander and cumin, which are the 2 favourite spices I use all the time. And I've also got cardamom, and I was warning people last time that cardamom, if you do too much, it will really spoil it, whereas you can go overboard on cumin and coriander and it just tastes kind of more and more tasty. But cardamom is like, no, don't do it, it's going to pull people off. I've got garam masala, or you could just swap it for mild curry, which is kind of the same thing with chili added to it, pretty much. And then I didn't put any chili in this one because I figured it'll keep it super, super mild for everyone, but I would normally chuck maybe like one whole green chili into the blender and just have that fresh chili taste to make it nice and, flavoursome. And then some salt as well. So. And what I would normally do with these seeds is just put them into a little pan like this first and toast them around a bit so that they sort of dry out and release their flavour. And then in a mortar and pestle like this, once they're toasted, they're a lot easier to grind as well. So that it's partly flavour and partly just when you're grinding, when they're dry, they break up faster. So I did that last night and chucked them into a jar, so they're still really fresh. Like, because they were ground and put straight in the jar, the flavours are all still pretty much captured. And that's just all tossed in, and then I'm going to put about a cup of liquid. And what I did do last time is actually had the stock pre-made, but I'll put a bit of stock powder just so that the stock is like veggie stock. Just pretend that was veggie stock I added. And the other one is dates, and so we've got about 12 dates, and butter chicken is normally quite a sweet sort of taste. It's got like a lot of cream in it and a lot of sugar, which is why people like it so much, I think, but dates do the job really well. And if you just cut them up a bit to make sure there's no stones in there. Did I do my joke from last time or not?
Yeah.
So the thing is, if you do have seeds or stones, you put them in the blender, it just goes like grit, and you'll hear this horrible sound, and then it's too late and you can't do anything about it. So if you cut them up first, you'll find the stones, pull them out, and then it won't be a problem. And same pretty much for anything you do with dates. I always cut them in half at least because there's always a stone. Like in every packet, there's got to be a stone somewhere. You know. It's like,
Yeah.
and the other thing with these things, sometimes dates they can be quite hard if it's really cold. So if you put them in like hot liquid first, like if you have the stock hot, you put the dates in, they'll get really soft and they'll blend up really easily. But this blender particularly is a very grunty thing, and it just makes short work of them, so it's fine. Okay, so that's the sweet aspect. And I'll just keeping adding liquid to the onions there, and each time I do it sort of soaks in, the onions get softer, sweeter, and it's not quite the same as frying, but it's actually, you know, it's pretty nice. And if you are trying to cut down on fat in your diet, like it's so funny, you know, fat's flavour of the month one decade and then the arch enemy the next decade, but I do personally think if you can eat more just whole foods and not like add lots of refined oils where you've got rid of all the plant fibre, you're kind of better off with just more whole plant foods. And so I often don't use the word vegan when people ask me like how I eat. I just say whole food, plant-based diet, and because I love like every fruit under the sun is my favourite thing, and potatoes and, you know, rice and beans. Like Mexican is one of my favourite things, and they're basically all whole plant foods, and they're great. You know, they're so nice. And I think your taste buds do change over time too. Like what used to taste awesome can just start to taste really like artificially strong, and salads and things like that start to taste better and better as your taste buds adapt. But it does take a little while, I think.
What about your energy levels?
I find my energy levels actually got really, really good, yeah. But you know what, I kind of think a lot of people, like food is there's kind of a cult of food, like we blame food for lots of things these days. But I found in my own life that food is one part of it, but it's more about how excited I am about life, and if I feel like I'm dealing with things that come along, you know, like you can feel really squashed and tired because you're just not dealing with some issue in your life. And so I find often, yeah, if I'm really getting onto things and in flow and that kind of stuff, my energy is really good. And then I'd probably say then I choose to eat good things too. So it's like a real, you know, loop. So with the blender, I'm going to start it on low, and so watch as the colour changes, okay? Because as the cashews break up, it gets like whiter and whiter and whiter, and it's really cool. Hopefully you guys can see at the back, but feel free to stand up or something if you want. How it's gone a lot whiter already, and that's probably pretty good, but I'll just run it for about another 20 seconds, and that'll make the cashews like super silky smooth. You won't even know they're there. It'll just be like a real richness in the sauce. And that really is actually all the hard work done. We're just going to pour that into the pan and let it simmer around, and that'll be fun because last time it splattered everywhere, and we'll do the same again. So yeah.
What omega-3s do you eat a lot of?
Omega-3s? Personally, I love walnuts, and they've got a pretty good omega-3 content, but what I'd say about that is when I first went vegan, I was really focused on different individual nutrients, and then I've started listening to a podcast pretty much about the same time called Rich Roll. Have you guys heard of Rich Roll in the States? So richroll.com, he's, I'm kind of in love. He's my mentor in terms of, like, he's a vegan ultra endurance athlete, and he's a sort of like a recovered alcoholic, but he He's got a lot of depth in him, and he talks about his journey from being a stressed out lawyer to being a really fit, one of the fittest guys in the world kind of thing. And what I really got from him is that it's about eating a big variety of plants all the time. You don't have to worry about the fine details, just think of the big picture. Oh, gosh.
It's really
Man.
going for him.
Luckily we've got pre-made stuff down the back, so...